Hi, I have something I need to get off my chest in respect of the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter movement is a unifying call to action. Unifying call to action. But it appears that some black people are still not getting it. So if you're in the camp where you say, how about black on black violence? I'm talking to you. If you're saying, what about corruption in Africa? That's not sorted out yet. I'm talking to you. If you're in the camp saying it's history, put it behind us, let's move forward, educate ourselves, I'm talking to you. If you just feel that you cannot be bothered, I'm talking to you. And just to be clear, I'm talking to all black people everywhere, whether you're in America or whether you're here in the UK or in Brazil, South Africa, Nigeria, the Caribbean, I'm talking to black people everywhere. But before we get into it, let's take a look at the clip that has brought us to this point. The video of George Floyd on the floor, taking his last breath with a white police officer's knee on his neck. We all need to see ourselves as black people reflected in that image. And that is why it is time we stand up for what needs to be done. So why is the way in which George Floyd was killed, why is it so painful for all black people to watch? Let's have a look at this quote from Bansky.
I like Bansky's analogy. We all live in the apartment, aka the earth. All lives matter, but at this point in time, black lives are of concern.
Look a little deeper into what's going on. Like George Floyd, we're all handcuffed. And before you get all preachy with me and say that you're free, we need to take a look at the institutions and systems that have been put in place as a result of colonialism and slavery that restrict us to this day. I refuse to be a victim, and I want to play my own little part in making sure all these systems and institutions are broken down. If we're to move forward, two things must happen. The first thing we need to do is to learn about these handcuffs. What are they? Where did they come from? And who put them there? So this is where I go off on a tangent. The Black Lives Matter movement started in the United States and has expanded to different countries in the West. But it is time that Africans and the African countries take up this movement. Why? Because it all started in Africa. The Black Lives Matter movement needs to embrace Africa, and Africa needs to embrace the Black Lives Matter movement. So if I pick on my country, Nigeria, for example, I grew up in Nigeria, and for years, we all know we've been crying out about corruption and other social injustices that go on in our country. We are handcuffed, just like George Floyd. That is the reality. We can see it, but we seem helpless and we cannot seem to be able to do anything about it. And that is why we have to unite behind the movement. We need to understand our history, look at things at a macro level. And we need to look at the cause, not the symptoms. Corruption is a symptom. Black on black violence is a symptom. But what's causing these things? What institutions and systems remain to this day? I'll give you a couple of examples. Did you know that South Africa continues to pay back debt that was used to support and prop up the apartheid regime? Did you know that Francophone Africa has to give all its money to France and then borrow it back at commercial rates to this day? It is complete madness, and it has to stop. We need to read books. We need to educate ourselves as to why we see and manifest and we see people crossing the Mediterranean Sea and dying in the sea, our own people. Why is there so much poverty and injustice that people have to do this? Until we go back and untangle all of these things and understand them, how on earth can we unite behind one cause?
So we need to learn about the Scramble for Africa, the Berlin Conference of 1884 that partitioned Africa, and the amalgamation that created Nigeria in 1914.
Nigeria was created by the British on a divided we rule principle. We can still see it to this day. Now we have the Chinese coming in, buying up our land, exporting our produce to their country. And this applies not just to Nigerians, applies to all the black nations. We can see the shit going on in our backyards, and sometimes that's what prevents us from speaking up. But I think there's change in the air. That is why we need to unite behind this movement. Let this movement be the unifying core for all of us to start to speak up. The start point is understanding our common history, the common institutions and systems that have been put in place that hold us back to this day. There's a common thread going on. So we need to have a common understanding and unite behind a common cause. Speak with one voice and act. Wherever it is you are, you can do something.
I am not an expert or a politician, but even I can see that the Black Lives Matter movement has created a unifying force for good.
I'm going to recommend 3 books that explain why Africa remains in handcuffs to this day. It's important we understand this history because Africa is the motherland. And until Africa is free, how on earth can we all be free?
A Fatherless People by Dele Ogun. How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. The State of Africa by Martin Meredith. The second thing we need to do is to come together with a collective understanding of our shared history. This way of thinking will enable us break the handcuffs. Malcolm X said it much better than me.
Where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together.
I will internally combust if I hear one more person tell me history does not matter. Or what about black on black violence? Going back to Bansky's quote, we are the people downstairs. The flood is coming and we're scrambling for survival. So we all need to understand that when we look at children in the United Kingdom and we look at black on black violence, we need only to understand that that's a symptom and we need to go back to understand why that's happening. When we go to South Africa and we see black South Africans killing black Nigerians, we need to understand that the black South Africans still remain in poverty even though apartheid is long gone, and that is why they're killing their fellow Africans. We need to feel ashamed when we see our brothers and sisters falling into the Mediterranean Sea as they flee their home country because of poverty, and we need to do something. So, what are we going to do? We need to educate ourselves, we need to spread awareness, but most importantly, we need to unite. The Israelites in the Bible, very similar, they wanted to be free from the Egyptians. They've been held in captivity, and they went back again and again and again and again until they got their freedom. That is what we must all do. We need to unite in one voice, and we need to push forward in all different ways, all different fronts, until we get free of these handcuffs. So in this moment, a movement has been created. This is the time for all of us to unite behind it. To George Floyd, I want to say, you have changed the world. So rest in peace, brother.